You think an old memory came back, but more precisely, a present context just restarted an old version of you. That is why it can happen so fast. You see a name. You hear a certain tone. You walk into a room. You read one short message. Before you have an opinion, your body has already changed. The chest tightens. The stomach drops. Your hand reaches for the phone. And a sentence appears before you choose it. Here we go again. Or worse, I am going to be hurt again. That difference matters, because old pain is not always a clean replay of the past. Very often, old pain is the present moment auto-filling the past. I call it auto-filled pain. It is like typing one letter into a search box, and the system completes the whole sentence for you. The brain can do something similar. One cue comes in, a smell, a face, a pause, a phrase that sounds too familiar. Then the system starts completing. It completes the scene. It completes the body state. It completes the danger. Then it completes a story about you. I am not safe. I am easy to abandon. When I care, I get hurt. The thing that traps you is not only the memory, it is the me that gets built from the memory. So let me put the useful part near the beginning. When the pain starts autofilling, do not follow the whole story immediately. Do 3 things first. Notice it. Name it. Step back from it. Notice it means catching the first moment. Not when you are calm. Not when you have already sent 5 messages. Right when your chest tightens. Right when your voice gets hard. Right when you feel the need to defend yourself. That is the moment to say, the system is auto-filling. Name it means turning the emotion into an object. If someone offends you, you can explode. That is one path. But you can also say, what you just did brought up anger in me. That sentence is not pretending to be polite. It changes the structure of the moment. Anger is no longer the whole identity. Anger becomes something that is happening. Step back means turning the I into something you can observe. Instead of saying, I am a mess, you can say, he is going through a strong emotional wave right now. Or she is being pulled into an old story. That sounds small, but it creates distance. And distance is where awareness begins to work. Everything else in this episode is here to explain why those 3 moves matter. See it. Say it. Do not become it too quickly. Now we can go deeper. The first mistake is thinking that memory is a video file. It is not. From a neuroscience point of view, memory is much more like a compressed index. You do not store every second of an experience in perfect detail. Your brain filters. It selects. It marks. It asks, what matters here? What might be dangerous? What is connected to me? What may be useful later? One part of this filtering involves what neuroscientists call the Salience network. You can think of it as an importance tagging system. It does not treat every detail equally. It gives certain details more weight. The sentence that hurt, the silence after you spoke, the look on someone's face, the feeling of your body falling inside itself. A painful memory often begins as a marked memory, not a neutral archive. Marked, highlighted, weighted. The day itself may have had thousands of details. The light in the room, the cup on the table, the sound outside, what you ate later. Most of that disappears. What remains is a small set of high-weight fragments. And later, those fragments can light up very quickly. This is why old pain rarely returns as a full movie. It comes back as a few charged pieces, a tone, a face, a body sensation, a sentence. Then the hippocampus gets involved. The hippocampus is not simply opening a file cabinet. It helps bind pieces of experience together. It helps your system use one cue to rebuild a larger context. That ability is useful. You need it to recognize situations fast. You need it to know if a place feels safe. You need it to sense if a voice means trouble. But the same ability can also restart old pain. When a present cue resembles an old marked cue, the brain may do pattern completion. A small piece can pull up a larger pattern. You give the system a beginning. It completes the old script. This is the strange part. You may feel like you are remembering, but the system is already completing. It is not only bringing up fragments, it is rebuilding a context around them. And once that happens, another system often takes over. The default mode network. You will hear people call it the DMN. This network is involved in autobiographical memory, future simulation, and the story of the self. In simple language, it helps the mind make a me out of events. It does not only say, "That tone reminds me of the past." It adds, "So I am the person who is never respected." It does not only say, "This room makes my body tense." It adds, "So I will never be free from this." It does not only say, "This message reminds me of that relationship." It adds, "So I was never worth choosing." Now the pain has changed levels. At first, there was a cue. Then there were fragments. Then a body state. Then a self-story. And the self-story is where suffering becomes sticky. You are not only hurt by what happened, you are hurt by what the mind keeps building from it. This is why some memories feel more certain every time you revisit them. Because remembering is not just taking something out of storage. Remembering can also rewrite the note attached to it. If you are scared now, the past starts looking like evidence. If you are lonely now, the past starts looking like a verdict. If you are trying to prove you will never be hurt again, the past becomes a legal case. You think you are studying what happened, but very often you are adding comments. This means I cannot trust people. This means I always fail. This means my feelings will never matter. Those comments make the memory feel complete. They make it feel solid. They make it feel like the truth. But they are not the raw past. They are the present mind writing onto the past. That is, auto-filled pain. Pain is not a file. It is a completion process. A cue appears. Importance gets tagged. Fragments come up. The body enters an old state. The self-story starts forming. And in the end, you do not just feel something happened. You feel, this is who I am. Once you see that, the situation can loosen a little. Not because the pain vanishes. It may not vanish. But for the first time, you can see that the pain is not one solid thing. It is being assembled. So the next time old pain returns, do not begin with the usual question. Do not ask, "Why am I still not over this?" That question usually adds shame to the loop. Ask a more precise question. What was the cue? Was it a name? A tone? A time of day? A room? A message? Or maybe simple exhaustion? Then ask, what did my body complete first? Tension? Numbness? Falling? Heat? The need to escape? The need to explain? The need to check if someone is still there? Then ask, what story about me did the mind complete? I do not matter. I am about to be abandoned. I should not trust anyone. I will always be like this. These questions are not a productivity tool. They are a way to break a giant pain back into its construction process. Cue, body, story. The clearer you see those layers, the harder it becomes to believe the whole story at once. This is why naming the emotion matters. Not because saying it out loud magically fixes everything. It does not. But when you say, "There is anger here," something changes. When you say, "There is hurt here," something changes. When you say, "A feeling of being dismissed is here," something changes. The emotion is no longer the whole subject. It becomes an object in awareness. It is not, "I am anger." It is, "Anger is appearing here." That little gap is not fake calm. It is a real shift in relationship. You are not suppressing the emotion. You are changing your position toward it. Then you can take one more step. You can observe the person called me. Not in a cold way, Not like you are abandoning yourself. More like you are finally seeing the machinery clearly. This person is being caught by an old story. This person is being restarted by a current context. This person wants to prove they are not hurt. That is not dissociation. It is perspective. And perspective weakens automatic identity. At this point, Buddhism can enter without becoming a slogan. If you begin by saying, "Let go of the past," that usually fails. Because the person in pain thinks, "I would love to, but it keeps coming back." Fear. So do not begin there. Begin with the mechanism. The past is not simply coming back as a fixed object. The current context is assembling fragments into a self-story. Once you see that, a line from the Diamond Sutra becomes much sharper. Past mind cannot be grasped. Present mind cannot be grasped. Future mind cannot be grasped. This is not a soft line. It cuts. It does not only question the past. It cuts the three directions the self tries to hold. The past you are grasping is not a complete fixed past. It has already been reorganized by present cues, present fear, and present bodily state. You think you are holding the past, but often you are holding a past being generated right now. Neuroscience brings us back to the same edge from another angle. The DMN helps turn the past into autobiography. It also helps turn the future into simulation. So what you call my past is often the mind completing fragments into my story. And what you call my future is often the same story continuing forward. I will be hurt again. I will be left again. I will prove that I was never worth staying for. That future is not waiting somewhere in front of you. It is being simulated now. It is another auto-completion. Then what about the present? The present feels the most real. But the moment you say, "This is now," it has already moved. It has already been felt by the body. It has already been marked. It has already been indexed. It is already being narrated. So, present mind cannot be grasped is not mystical fog. It points to something very direct. The pure present you want to hold becomes a trace almost immediately. Then the mind explains the trace. Past is being reconstructed. Future is being simulated. Present is slipping into narration. That does not mean experience is fake. It does not mean pain is imaginary. The pain is real. The body reaction is real. The consequences may be real. But the me built from that pain is not always true. This is close to what Buddhism calls self-grasping atmagraha. The mind takes a moving process and treats it as a solid self. It takes conditions and calls them me. It takes a story and calls it destiny. The practice is not deleting memory. You cannot delete memory by force. You also do not need to perform enlightenment and pretend you are fine. The practice is slower and more honest. When auto-completion begins, see it beginning. See the cue being marked. See the body entering an old state. See the story trying to connect fragments into fate. Then do not sign it too quickly. Do not stamp it with, "Yes, this is me." You only need one small gap. This is a story being completed. This is not a final truth. That gap may not look dramatic. No one else may notice it. But inside the loop it is a real act of freedom. Because the old system wants speed. It wants you to become the reaction before you can see it. It wants the cue to become the body to become the story to become identity. Awareness slows that chain down, not by fighting it, by watching it assemble. So maybe freedom does not begin when old pain never appears again. Maybe it begins when the context presses restart and you can finally see the restart happening. It is starting. It is completing. It is turning fragments into me. And this time, you do not have to enter the old version automatically.